chatter going on in the Auburn community about what has happened with these three top LSU players being taken out of the game this weekend.
Well, you know, Ashley, the focus for Auburn has always been on what they can control. This team, as you know, in the last year has dealt with distractions and has not been fazed by them. And this, you know, Gene Chizik and the coaching staff has done a good job of really putting a cap on that and, you know, having Auburn really focus on themselves. That's kind of what they've done, and that's been what their trademark has been throughout the season, to really focus on what they can control. They know what they're dealing with LSU, and obviously if there's a few players that maybe are going to be taken out of the mix, that can change things a little bit in terms of game planning. But Auburn has enough on their plate right now. They've got a new starting quarterback who's getting his first start at the collegiate level, and I think really their mindset and their focus is on that, and that's really a big enough distraction in itself, and that's something really what they're dealing with right now.
Gotcha. Does anybody, I guess, is there any team kind of feeling like, whew, at least it won't be everything and all they got against us this weekend?
To some extent, you know, Auburn right now, obviously coming off a big win over Florida, is feeling more confident, and they have really a belief in what they're doing right now, even though it has not looked pretty on paper. They know that they're probably going to face, this is the toughest team they've faced all year coming up in LSU. They've dealt with some teams that they've actually fared, you know, not too bad against. Most people didn't give them a lot of chance against South Carolina, and really going in as the underdog is something that I think they're taking with open arms, because so far it's worked right now, and I think right now there's no reason to think it shouldn't continue to work.
Awesome. So then I guess you kind of already answered the second question, so the third question would be, coming from the situation that you guys had to deal with Cam Newton last year, you guys on the other fence kind of looking in, even though Cam Newton was, I don't believe, ever taken out of an actual game, although close. I think, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right, he was never taken out of the game, and he was, they always declared his being eligible, and obviously, as we've learned in the last week, that was the truth be told.
Cool. Okay, so basically looking on the other side at another team having to deal with this drama, I guess how is the Auburn community kind of, is there a compassion there, do you think, at all?
I would say that there's a compassion. Basically, this team has dealt with, and overcome everything that you can imagine in the last 365 days, from the trees being poisoned to their quarterback being under a microscope the entire season, and has really overcome everything outside of what takes place on the football field. So really there's nothing that seems to faze this team. Now obviously we're talking about a much younger team than last year, but this team obviously has shown some resilience, and I think right now they're riding on the horses of the players that they have to make plays, and I think they're just letting their actions on the field do the talking.
Awesome. Okay, anything else you want to add?
I think really the only thing, if there's anything that Auburn has to be concerned about more than who they're going to face, is what's going to happen with their quarterback. They're, you know, having a starting quarterback facing for the first time in his collegiate career against the #1 ranked team is something that is somewhat mind-boggling, but this offense has struggled significantly, and this is obviously of a change of pace. I think Auburn is, I think you can expect, if you're LSU, a very unconventional and typical Gus Malzahn style of offense. You're going to see a lot of quarterbacks rotating in and out. You're going to see Kyle Frazier, who most people are tagging as a miniature Cam Newton. You know, they're going to you know, try their best to throw, you know, their opponents off guard, and I think that's what they're going to try to do with LSU. And obviously the players on Auburn are looking at this game as clearly the biggest game of the year outside of their last game against Alabama.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's all.
Okay. And the only other thing, yeah, so obviously the big story, I think, really this week, obviously prior to, and I would say even with the news about the players from LSU, is a new starting quarterback, because obviously this is something that, you know, Barrett Trotter was pulled during the Florida game, and Clint Mosley came on and played decent, going 4 for 7, throwing for 90 yards. But in terms of everything else, I would say that, you know, that's been the big story, and that's really what Auburn's been, you know, the chatter here is about how the starting quarterback is going to do in his first ever start against the #1 ranked team in college football.
Gotcha. All righty. Sounds good.